All right, former Twitter boss and co-founder Jack Dorsey has created a storm with a statement that paints the Indian government's handling of criticism in a very poor light. In an interview, Dorsey was asked about his experiences dealing with pressure from governments. He chose to give India's example, claiming that he received requests from the government during the farmers' protests of 2021 to block some accounts, and the pressure manifested in threats to shut down Twitter in India and raid employees' homes, which they did. The claims have been debunked by the Indian government, who say Dorsey is flat out lying. The opposition has jumped on to them, saying it proves that censorship in this country is rampant. But what we will do on the show this evening is look closely at the allegations and the facts. Was there, in fact, a raid on any Twitter employee's home? Was Jack Dorsey actually threatened with Twitter being shut down in India? And is there any veracity or proof of that claim? We must point out that Twitter has taken the Indian government to court. A case was filed in the Karnataka High Court where Twitter accused the government of abuse of power, and the verdict of this case has been reserved. So what really is going on? Before we go into all of that detail, let's first listen in to exactly what Jack Dorsey said and the counter that has come today from MOSIT Rajiv Chandrasekhar.
Well, India is a country that had many requests of us around the farmers' protest, around particular journalists that were critical of the government, and it manifested in ways such as we will shut Twitter down in India, which is a very large market for us. We will raid the homes of your employees, which they did. We will shut down your offices if you don't follow suit. And this is India, a democratic country.
Twitter is a company that believed that it was not necessary for it to comply with Indian law. It believed that it did not have to comply with Indian law and made up its rules as it went along. And the government of India has been very clear from the very beginning, for all companies that operate in India, they have to always comply with Indian law. That between 2020 and 2022, Twitter was violating Indian law multiple times. During that entire period, nobody went to jail, nobody was raided. And so Jack Dorsey, knowing fully well that Twitter did not comply with Indian law and did not face any consequence of that, is today lying and making up this story about raids and arrests.
All right, he's lying, says the government. So that's the allegation and the counter. Now let's look at what actually happened. In February of 2021, the farmers' protest reached a peak after violence broke out during Republic Day. In the ensuing violence on Republic Day, one protester was killed. The government at that time was being heavily criticized for its handling of the protests. The face-off with Twitter, though, began once the government asked the platform to block about 250 accounts. Those were accounts reportedly using a hashtag that claimed genocide was being planned against farmers by the PM. The government asked Twitter, then under Dorsey, to take down these accounts. Twitter took them down and restored some after a few hours, saying there was not enough justification for the government to demand blocking of these tweets. Reports then emerged that the government had warned Twitter of legal action if they didn't comply. Now, that's the backdrop of events that Dorsey is referring to in that clip. But to truly understand the story, we need to go into what the laws of the land actually say about social media. Now, the IT rules of India provide social media companies with something called safe harbor. That means the platform is not legally responsible for an individual account's post. So, for example, if a user calls for violence on a social media platform like Twitter, that individual user is legally responsible, not Twitter. But this safe harbor is conditional. And over the last few years, the government has been in a tussle with social media platforms on the extent of their responsibility for what people put out on the platform. Now, under Section 69A of the IT Act, the government can also order any platform to take down some content. There are conditions, of course. If that content challenges the sovereignty or security of the state, disturbs public order, morality, or defamation. The content then has to be removed in 36 hours of receiving the order. Twitter has for long been pointing out that India makes too many requests to remove content that the government thinks is a problem. In fact, Twitter puts out data every year saying that India is in the top list of requesting countries that wants content taken down. The others are Japan, South Korea and Turkey. India is also in the top list of countries that wants user data, and the other countries in that list include USA, Germany, etc. But bear in mind, India is also one of the top markets for Twitter worldwide. The number of users in India has been growing phenomenally, and it is a platform with some degree of influence in the public sphere. So with all of this context, the question remains that what are we seeing today? Is this a case of Jack Dorsey outing draconian behavior years after the event, or is this a case of exaggeration? Is the government justified in demanding some accounts be taken down? And is there really any guarantee that this power can't be misused to block free speech? To speak on this, I'm joined today by Dharinder Dayal of the BJP, Sandeep Ghosh, author and political commentator, is with me on the show, Arshpreet Karyal, spokesperson of the Congress, and Tehseen Poonawala, political analyst, joining us today on the show. I'm going to start with the BJP on today's story. Dharinder Dayal, we've run the clip of what the minister said today, and of course, tons of political reactions coming in. We will show some of those in a bit. But I want to understand that is it not true that the Indian government in 2021 did tell Twitter that comply with our rules or we will take legal action? And wouldn't that legal action include suspension of their licenses to conduct business in India?
So, Tamanna, what were the rules that the Indian government was asking them to comply with? Number one, that when the government says comply with the rules, are these the rules of a political party or are these the rules of a nation? So they're clearly the rules of a nation. So if you are working on the Indian soil, the problem seems to be with all these large corporates that they want the Indian market, but they carry the white man's burden and feel, no, we're not bound by the laws of this land. Just give me the market. And, for me, the laws that will apply will be either the laws which I have laid on to myself or the laws of USA or whatever other country that I feel like. But the Indian laws don't apply. I just need the market. Give me the market. Now, the laws were very simple, and the basic issue there was that they had to appoint 3 people: the chief compliance officer, the chief grievance redressal officer, and a nodal officer, and saying that all these 3 should be resident in India. What is so difficult about this?
No, but that's not the charge. 1 minute. Mr. Dayal, we're talking about something entirely different. That's not what Jack Dorsey is saying. Jack Dorsey is saying that he was asked to take down accounts of journalists who were critical, and if the pressure manifested in threats that if they didn't, Twitter office would be shut, they would not be allowed to function in this country. There would be raids on Twitter employees' offices, which they did. He claims this actually happened.
So here, sitting in India, we have a responsible person, the IT minister of the country, saying that nothing like that happened. And there is this guy who is on record saying that, yes, Twitter is leftist. It is on record. You can check it out. The new buyer of Twitter has said 20% of Twitter is fake. 20%. Now, was that intentional or was that not intentional? Why was it there? Because it would get him better revenue. Now, that is what Jack Dorsey is. And when he says we are leftist directly, I mean, you are a media house.
No, but what is see, Jack Dorsey being leftist, I don't know if it has much to do with their compliance. If a country, if a country has laws, a company has to follow it, whether they're leftist or rightist. Any government could come tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. So can a media house say, if you're a media house, I mean, you cannot be both. One day,
okay.
Responsibility.
Okay, Arshpreet Karyal, 1 minute. Let me get Congress to respond. Arshpreet Karyal, today the Congress has said that, the truth has been proven. Jack Dorsey has unmasked what has been happening. But, the fact that in his clip over there, he claims that there were raids at Twitter employees' houses. And there is absolutely no evidence of that. There
Well,
is
not
no
just,
evidence of a raid on any Twitter employee's home. Does this put a bit of a cloud on what he's saying?
Not really. As a matter of fact, you remember that on May 24th, 2021, there were raids conducted at the office of Twitter as well, and there have been several other raids as well. See,
No, there was none on any employee's home. Arshpreet, illuminate me if there was, because I've been looking for this. I've been looking for this. Was there a raid on any Twitter employee's home?
Here's what the concern is. We are talking about, the revelations that are being made by Jack Dorsey. The revelations are about intimidation and suppression that the government has been doing to Twitter employees, and the people who have been dissenting with the government. Now, if in case there is a lack of evidence, there is a lack of cogent proof, that does not really mean that it does not exist. It probably means that what Twitter has been saying has actually been happening, because of which we cannot see a lot of things. Number two, the government says they have a lot of problem with Twitter and how it has been functioning. Great. Get off of it. Delete your accounts. On one hand, you cannot say, that Twitter is bad. On the other hand, you've been using and having followers and influencing people. So give up your double standards and stop.
One minute. Arshpreet, 1 minute.
May I have 1 minute uninterrupted, please? After you can have your questions.
Okay.
The Bharatiya Janata Party should stop blowing hot and cold at the same time. Number two, what is Twitter? It is basically a bridge is begotten between people and politicians. You can get first-hand feedback from the people because of Twitter. Now, has it happened for the first time with Twitter? The Bharatiya Janata Party has a pattern of intimidation or suppression. You see the media houses.
Why am I interrupting you, Arshpreet? Because no one cares what the Bharatiya Janata Party as a political party likes or dislikes about Twitter. This is not about the Bharatiya Janata Party. This is about the government of India, a social media platform, free speech, and a very serious claim.
See, now I'll tell you what, Tamanna.
So, Bharatiya Janata Party spokespersons being on Twitter and then still disliking it and saying on Twitter that we hate Twitter is fine. You may have a political point, but no one gives a hoot about what political parties feel. This is about a sovereign nation and a social media platform.
See, the BJP has this habit of, twisting things. Whenever the government gets criticized, they say you are criticizing India.
Okay.
Now, when the Bharatiya Janata Party is being criticized, the government is being criticized, they say you have violated the rules of the nation. No, it appeared as if we have violated, and the Twitter and all the other people who dissented with you violated the rules of the government. And that's why you had a problem with it. Number two, I only want to ask him this one question.
Okay.
That the revelations say that you tried to gag every voice that dissented with you, that was from the opposition, or that tried to question you. Second dot is that there were raids conducted. Third dot is that Jack Dorsey has nothing to gain from it. It is the Bharatiya Janata Party that has skin in the game. Jack Dorsey does not happen to be an Indian MP. He has zero things to gain. But it's the Bharatiya Janata Party that has been lying time and again. It was the BJP that promised 15 lakhs, not Jack Dorsey.
No, I don't know how you've gone into 15 lakhs. Arshpreet, let's keep it focused. Let's keep it focused. 15 lakh mein hum kahan se chale gaye? Okay, Darinder Tayal responding very quickly before I move on. Let's keep it focused. Okay, Jack Dorsey in his comments, I want to repeat again and we'll play it out again if you want. He does not say Bharatiya Janata Party. He says India. India, that is a democracy, put pressure on us. Should the rules be looked at, or is he bluffing? Is he bluffing when he says Twitter employees' homes were raided? The cops did arrive at Twitter offices, and Mr. Tayal, please respond to this. The cops did arrive in Twitter's offices soon after Twitter marked a post by a BJP spokesperson, Sambit Patra, as manipulated media. And then the cops did arrive at the Twitter offices. Was that a raid?
No. So let us be very clear. What is happening? Number one, I would first like to respond to the Congress spokesperson, who has said BJP is double-faced. Now I'll tell you, and wonderfully, what is double-faced. Now the Congress, which suddenly becomes the champion of freedom of speech. Now, I would like to take you to your big boss, Mr. Rahul Gandhi at Cambridge, and I'd like to quote, where he says the ways Americans value individual liberty, the Chinese value harmony. because they have had huge pain, revolution, civil war, which is legitimate because there are no personal liberties in China. So, in one place, Congress is okay that there are no liberties, there's no individual freedom, but here we're talking about and BJP and
Audio issue.
Yeah. No, he's right. I can't hear you well, Mr. Tayal. There's something wrong with your audio. We're going to take a second and fix it because we couldn't make out that last point. So, you can come back with that point. We couldn't hear you very well. I'm going to come to Tehseen Poonawala. Tehseen Poonawala, I want to reiterate again. It's become, I know it's become BJP Congress, but frankly, it's a more important story. It's an important story about the responsibilities / rights of a platform like Twitter, which, if you look at it in the bigger context, apart from this one statement, has been under severe scrutiny. The Dorsey era of Twitter has been under severe scrutiny, and they've not come out smelling of roses. So if there is a hashtag trending that claims that there is a genocide of farmers, should a democratic government want to stop the spread of that disinformation or not?
Good evening, Tamanna. Thank you so much for having me on the show. Let's take each thing step by step. First thing, whether Congress or BJP, I definitely am not a fan of the left. I think the left are loonies. But just because you're left does not mean you're anti-social or anti-national or anti-whatever humanity. Because if that was the case, my most honorable Prime Minister would not be meeting Jack Dorsey or telling him Twitter is a wonderful platform for interaction. But that's aside. Let's not get into that. Let's stick to the facts of the case. The Honorable Union Minister for IT said, and I quote him, that Twitter regularly violated Article 14 and 19 of the Constitution. That's another bite, not the bite that your channel played, but he said this on record. My simple submission, Tamanna, is one is pregnant or not pregnant. One cannot be half pregnant. If Twitter regularly violated the laws of India, why did the union government not prosecute Twitter if they were violating the laws? Can the government, its supporters, or the BJP spokesperson tell us today on the show which laws in particular in the IPC or CRPC or the IT Act were violated? If yes, why was no action taken in terms of a criminal offense? Point number two, you came to the farmers' protest. You're absolutely right. Maybe for some people, the martyrdom of 700 farmers is not a genocide, and I will not hold that against them if they don't think the martyrdom of 700 farmers was a genocide. But definitely during the farmers' protest, Tamanna, you remember a young girl called Disha Ravi was picked up, called a member of a toolkit gang, and how the courts came down heavily. The government has regularly, this present government, tried to control social media. Remember, this is the union government that came to power criticizing 66A.
But Tehseen, let me just interject there. So you're saying this government has a poor track record of dealing with criticism and a poor track record on freedom of speech. That does not necessarily make everything Jack Dorsey claims today the whole and complete truth.
I absolutely agree with you.
His second sentence has a bit of a fib in it when he says, they said that there will be raids on our employees' homes, which they did. Which Twitter employee's home was raided?
I absolutely agree with you.
And to your point, and they've taken the government of India to court. Our justice system allows that you have gotten, requests or demands actually to take down content. You're saying it's wrong. You've taken the government to court. You've gone to court and said there's abuse of power, yet you still function, thrive, and make money in this country. So, I'm saying that the two issues are being conflated.
No, I absolutely agree with you. That's why I said the left are loonies. In fact, Jack is a millionaire lefty who thinks leftism is good, and he himself is a millionaire billionaire. I have no love for the left, and I don't take Jack the Ripper, Jack in the corner him seriously. I take my government seriously. Tamanna, what you are not understanding is I take Rajiv Chandrasekhar sir very, very seriously. He said Article 1419 were violated. I am saying if they were, act against them. Why are you playing victim card? Now let's come to the third issue. You're acting against Disha Ravi, not against Jack the Ripper, Jack the Twitter CEO. Prime Minister is hanging out with him, telling him Twitter is a great space to interact. Take action. That's what the parliamentary committee also pulled up Twitter.
Sandeep Ghosh, welcome to the show.
Can I make one more point? Just one more point very briefly.
Okay, quickly.
That this government wants to control information is come when I was on your show, when they got in the guidelines to bring in a fact check unit, which the Bombay High Court then came down and they said, no, we've not formed the rule. This government is also trying to do it. Nobody's denying that the government wants to control information. But I don't take Jack seriously. I'm hoping my government acts. It's been toothless and has itself exposed itself on your show. Tell me the sections.
The problem right now with all governments, even Congress-led state governments, we saw that in the new Karnataka government, suddenly everyone in government develops very thin skin when it comes to criticism. And then they want to go down hammer and tongs, and social media has become like this pulpit which completely, enlarges and accentuates any criticism. So they hate it. You shoot the messenger, you shoot the platform. But is that the story that we're seeing today? Because Jack Dorsey has made very, very, very startling claims. Sandeep Ghosh, Tehseen Poonawala's point is that if they violated the law, where is the action? Where is the action? Where are the criminal complaints? If they have violated the law and they no longer can enjoy safe harbor, etc., then what's happening about that?
Thank you, Tamanna. I've been, your guest relation executive, when she called me, she said, you're sounding sleepy, but don't worry, you can sleep for the first 20 minutes of the show and then you'll get a turn to speak.
I hope you didn't feel sleepy though, Sandeep. You're looking quite up and awake.
No, that's because
Sandeep was up and he saw me. Sandeep was up and he saw me.
Your panelists kind of, keep me animated. Anyway, I think, Tamanna, you used the right word, conflation. I think there are too many issues we are conflating out here. There is one is a legality part, which many have kind of touched upon, but has not grasped it totally. Now, when you are saying where is the action, that was precisely the issue. Twitter didn't even name a responsible person in India. They constantly claimed at that point in time that they are not subject on these issues to the Indian jurisdiction. And when it comes to these countries like Nigeria, India, they said we are governed by the US jurisdiction. In India, they didn't even have a responsible person. From what I recall, Delhi High Court asked them to name somebody responsible who for any of these things can be held accountable. So any MNC, any foreign establishment, when they have their name an Indian manager or Indian responsibility, they didn't have anybody there. The person who was there at that point in time in India was calling himself some kind of a marketing executive and saying that he is a direct employee of the US. He has got nothing to do with Indian. So those were all the issues. The 69A, which you quote, was actually passed by Mr. Kapil Sibal, who has today been very critical in the UPA regime. It is not a creation of the BJP. So the need was felt to control these social media platforms. I don't want to get into the legalese and legality of what you talked of safe harbor, who are intermediaries, and what is the responsibility. So therefore, it was that was a precise reason why government was not able to pin them down in India. On the contrary, it was Twitter who dragged the government to court, whether it's in Karnataka, whether it's in Delhi, and various other places. So I think that legal point we need to keep aside. Secondly, we are coming into the political point. I don't think it's material whether it's left, right, or center. What is Jack Dorsey can be left, right, whatever it is, that does not change the situation as far as what was happening or not happening on the platform. Now, the moot issue is what he is saying today. What is his credibility and what are we latching on to? It is very clear Jack Dorsey is, again, just like earlier, he tried to deal with the situation outside the jurisdiction of India. He's trying to make allegations sitting in the US, which he knows cannot be challenged here. But what is Jack Dorsey's credibility? We have seen the Twitter files earlier, the Twitter leaks, and we know where it is. We also know that he is extremely, extremely still peeved that he had to lose that platform to Elon Musk. So he has got a lot of axe to grind. But final point is,
if I may,
timing is curious.
No.
Why does he have to wait for so long to raise the
because
issues
he was
today?
He was doing an interview. He was doing an interview with a YouTube channel, and the question, because the context matters. The question to him was, what was your experience when you ran Twitter, dealing with some of the most powerful people in the world? And he chooses to answer starting with India. Then he goes on to talk about Turkey.
Yeah, so Turkey and India clubbing in the same breath. If Indians find it, a lot of people I know are latching on to that and saying, oh, we never imagined this day when India will be clubbed with Turkey and compared with Turkey. I don't even want to comment on that, the people who have been saying about it. But you have to see the credibility of the person. You have to see the timing of it.
No, but okay.
Why is he doing it? He is doing it. I don't want to even ascribe motives to him. But
why do you think he's doing it? Since you have raised that conspiracy theory, why do you think he's doing it now, Sandeep?
I think this is very clearly he is doing it to ambush Mr. Modi's trip to the US. This is part of an orchestrated campaign. There are people who are doing it. He is doing it at somebody's behest.
No, but I'm not worried about that. If you're saying Jack Dorsey is so irrelevant, then why is his interview to a YouTube channel going to ambush the Prime Minister of India's state visit? Now, either he's useless or he's very relevant and powerful.
Tamanna, there is a whole series. Today some people are going to play the BBC documentary before Prime Minister Modi's visit. There are various other things happening. There is a whole orchestrated campaign. But I'm not getting into that. People are entitled to do that, whatever they want to do there.
Okay.
I am worried about Indians latching onto it. If you want to remove, I've said this in small, I put out a Twitter clip. If you want to remove Mr. Modi, please do it democratically. Do it through a movement here. Why do you have to leave?
It's okay. Ironically, you put that out on Twitter itself. But to today assume that the former Twitter CEO's comments to a YouTube channel in a certain context is going to impact Indian democracy seems as ludicrous as anything that he may have claimed. Okay.
According to me, it doesn't. Tamanna, give me 30 seconds. I don't think it matters at all.
Yeah.
The common man in India is not bothered about what is being said on Twitter. Mr. Modi may still lose because of inflation, because of various other issues, unemployment, etc.
Okay, 1 minute. All the hands going up, but I'm going to come to Narendra Tayal because he lost out because of a network issue for about 10 minutes of this discussion and he was midpoint. So let me come back to him. Narendra Tayal, Tehseen Poonawalla in that interim of solving the tech issue made the point that if Twitter had violated so many Indian laws, as the minister today says, what was the government of India doing? Why didn't we prosecute?
The government of India had taken them to task for 17 months. They were defying the law. So somewhere, if we are connecting it to any particular event, for 17 months, they were not complying with it.
So, sir, what were we doing for 17 months? What were we doing for, what is taking to task? What you are saying is taking to task today. Dorsey, after he's left that position, is saying is pressure. He today is painting himself as a hero who withstood the pressure of the Indian government.
He did not withstand. I mean, they have complied, and now they have also gone to the court, which is fine. The court will give its judgment, whatever. The other thing that I want to make on the comment which I made earlier, I did not say Jack Dorsey is leftist. He has said my people, my organization is leftist. Now I want to ask you: can Mirror now say I'm leftist or rightist or centrist? No, you have a media house.
I'm glad you made that point because this is a news platform. What is Twitter? What exactly is Twitter? I think we're missing the wood for the trees by going into whether Jack Dorsey is leftist or Elon Musk is rightist. The fact is Twitter is a free-for-all with no responsibility for what it says. It poses as a news platform, but it's not.
That's the issue.
Are they an intermediary or are they a media house? If they're a media house,
okay. I'll let Tehseen come on it and then I'll go to Arshpreet. Tehseen, the issue is that why does Twitter matter? There are many platforms, right? There was an attempt of a wannabe Indian Twitter coup. No one knows what's on it. Why does Twitter matter? Because it has a reach. So it is behaving in parts, and today Narendra Tayal is comparing it to a news organization. It's behaving in parts like a news organization or a disseminator of information, but does not have the same rules applying to it as we do. We can't come here and say whatever we feel like without being fact-checked, which is complete lies. We'll get holed up.
because Mr. Tatyal, with respect to him and most people in the BJP, haven't read the Shreya Singhal judgment that distinguishes between a news channel like yours, which is very, very respectable, and an intermediary, which is simply a carrier of information put out. For example, I use Twitter, of course, for politics, but I also use it for collaborations on various things that I endorse. So there are two different things. If you haven't understood it, that's a problem that you are grappling with. That's not the problem of the intermediary. That is the first problem. Number two, Elon Musk himself says, because Elon Musk, I'm not forgetting left, right, forget all that, says that it is not possible to uphold freedom of speech in India, and he doesn't want Twitter employees to go to jail. My limited point, which nobody is seeming to answer, is simply this: 17 months Twitter was violating the laws. Why were you dealing with them? A parliamentary committee headed by none other than Shashi Tharoor, a liberal, a Congress, pulled him up. Yet you took no action, but the Prime Minister is saying it's a wonderful platform to interact on. If somebody violates the law, let's assume hypothetically Tamanna violates the law on this show, wouldn't your government be constitutionally and duty bound to act against her or against me? Why did you not do the same for Twitter? Today, coming and crying is of no use. You have the most powerful Home Minister in the world. He should act. Why are you playing victim all the time? That's the question, sir. With respect, you're not answering.
Mr. Dayal?
No. So, I mean, we are not playing the victim at all. It's Twitter which is playing the victim. And we've done whatever is required to be done.
Okay. Okay.
But the point, the scene which you are making is that
No, yeah, that audio is bad. That audio is bad. I can't hear you. Dr. Dayal, I can't hear you, unfortunately. We'll have to patch that again. Yes. Arshpreet wanted to come in.
Yeah, thank you. See, I'm not really sure if people slept or not, but after the political commentator spoke, I'm sure a lot of people would have skipped the channel, given the assertions that he made.
I'm sure you will keep people on.
There's no more proof required as to how and who's been threatening the democracy of India. And, this is proof enough. And if they have no regard for foreign entities, they disregard it in entirety. Why do we have a global hunger index? Why do we have a freedom of press index? Number three, you see, the BJP government has this pattern. It's social media today. Before this, it was the opposition. And before that, it was the media. They have all been arm-twisted at one point or another. Number four is Rahul Gandhiji's account was also suspended. You remember that? And his account was also shadow blocked, basically for 6 months. There was no new followers. There was no new subscriber because of what was being done. And today, if such an important position holder who had it back in the day has made these revelations, you can't just do away with it saying that he's lying. There is no basis to that. There is no proof of that. Instead, there have been raids, yes. There have been Twitter accounts that have been blocked, yes. And there is a pattern, the Bharatiya Janata Party. They have done this to every single person.
Let me get Sandeep Ghosh to respond to that.
All we are saying is...
that's a good point. Let me get Sandeep Ghosh to respond to that. There is a track record, Mr. Ghosh. There is a track record of accounts, yes, being taken down, of Twitter ultimately complying. One assumes they complied. That's why there was no action despite this apparent violation of law. They complied, they gave in. So it kind of proves the claim that the Indian government exerted pressure on a social media intermediary to shut down what they didn't like.
First of all, I think we must make the distinction which you made, Tamanna. I'll be brief because, your other speaker said, when I speak, people turn off the channel. I don't want you to lose TRP. So I'll be short on that.
Oh dear.
But first of all,
why don't you let me worry about that? Why don't all of you let me worry about that?
No, I want you to be, make the distinction which you did between a news. They have to be very clear. Are they a news platform? Are they an intermediary? If the intermediary, who's the responsible person whom the government have to take action against? If they're saying that they don't hold responsibility for whosoever is doing, then why do they on their own take people's accounts down? As you said, there are various people, not just Mr. Rahul Gandhi, who, according to some people, is the most important Twitter handle in India. But there are a lot of people's handles were taken down. I know even of the right-wing people whose handles were taken down. Why does Twitter have to exercise that discretion? If they exercise the discretion, if you're saying you're just a neutral platform on which you have no control, there is nobody responsible out here. Government is entirely, and this is a 69A, which was formulated in the time of the Congress, the UPA government, to exercise that if they think there are, as you said, conditions apply, if for some reason they think it is against national interest. And I agree with your previous speaker that, arm twisting media is not new. We have seen how it happened during emergency. We know how it happened before, even in Mr. Nehru's time, when he called the press the Jhoot press, the Jhoot press. So that's a pattern. It happens in every country in different forms.
So are you admitting then, Dr. Ghosh, are you admitting, Mr. Ghosh, that there is arm twisting of social media intermediaries?
Not as arm twisting. If you don't have any responsibility, if there is, like you are saying in your channel, if something happens, somebody can talk to the editor. Where there is in every newspaper also, you say somebody is responsible for selection of the news item. That person, here you say, I'm not responsible. I'm only accountable by the US laws. And in India, I don't even have some nominated person who is accountable for this.
Arshpreet, let me, before you answer, let me just put the question to you like that. If this was a UPA government or a Congress government who had to deal in this day and age with the kind of impact that social media has, and let's be honest over here, would it be a very, very different sort of outlook than the current government has? My guess is not really. My guess is not really. Any democratically elected Indian government would want to control the beast that social media is, like democracies around the world are trying to.
And it depends on...
1 minute. Arshpreet, that question to Arshpreet.
Thank you. My name's Arshpreet. Thank you. So, no matter what party would have been in government, I'm very sure no party would have hidden under the guise of, we are trying to manage social media. That's why, all these accounts are being blocked. That's why all these accounts are being taken down. That's why all these raids are happening on our offices. That's why the former Twitter CEO is making all these revelations. No government would hide behind it. No government would need that, guys. If you were to do that, you have IPC. Everybody knows the kind of amendments that were brought in the IT Act. Number two, everybody knows it for a fact that the Bharatiya Janata Party government, he was talking about the emergency. What happened to BBC? What happened to NDTV? What happened to Dainik Bhaskar? What happened to the Alt News? Everybody knows what's being done to the opposition parties. The conviction rate is at a bare minimum.
That they didn't pay taxes.
Hasn't 95% of the opposition parties have been targeted.
1 minute.
The same is being done to Twitter accounts.
1 minute. Sandeep, let him finish and then I'll come to you. Let him respond and then I'll come to you. Let him finish his point and I'll come to you, Sandeep. Yes.
I draw a classification here. Let's understand one thing. Compare the total number of Twitter accounts that have been blocked. Now see how many of them spoke against the government and how many of them did not speak against the government. You'll see that a vast majority of them spoke against the government. And in fact, this government is that government that's been wanting sedition law to stay, which says that you can't speak against the government, does not say you can't speak against the state. This government is confusing itself with the country. They think
Sandeep, let Sandeep respond. Let Sandeep respond. Sandeep, definitely not sleepy anymore. Ghosh, yes, please respond.
Arshpreet looks much younger to me, so he may not remember BBC was thrown out of this country by a particular government and a particular prime minister whom he may not remember.
We must talk about the recent past, Sandeep.
He may not remember. That's why I'm just telling him a bit of history. And today, BBC has admitted that they have not declared taxes. And why have they got immunity? Just because they're BBC, they will not pay taxes in India? I will not get into the NDTV
also. Alt News also. Dainik Bhaskar also.
Okay, 1 minute. Let me go to 1 minute. Let me go to Dharinder Tayal on the question of Dharinder Tayal. I've been trying to ask you this question for a while. If Twitter in India violated rules, there was such flagrant violation of rules for 17 months, as you have claimed, what has the government of India done about it? And then that should be the question we're asking. Was there a hush, wink, rap on the knuckles? What did you do?
And whom did government...
Dharinder Tayal, yes.
Nothing.
No, they couldn't do. If you don't have, it's
Darinder
like
Tayal, can you hear me,
like
sir?
the person who goes, he's not even holding an office. You can't take an action against him if you want to take against him the party because he says, I'm not holding any office. So Twitter doesn't have a responsible person in India.
Are you saying the Indian are you saying IPC has no way to take action against Twitter if tomorrow they violate the laws? Why is Elon Musk so scared then?
That is why they asked Twitter to name a responsible person in India. Even Delhi
That
High
was not
Court
just
asked
Twitter.
them to
That was
name-
for all.
Given the
That was for
government
all.
a certificate
That
of
was for all
failure.
social media platforms. Yes, Tessie.
No, others had. Others had.
Yes,
Twitter did
Tehseen.
not deliberately.
Issues that I want to raise. I'm not a defender of BBC. In fact, I don't even watch BBC. Tamanna, I watch your show. But first of this tax issue, let's just get this out of the way. That's exactly what the Congress spokesperson and I are speaking about. BBC's admitted to paying lesser tax also comes through a source. Planted by who? Income tax officials. BBC is not admitted. It's a source-based news. And that is now being taken as gospel. What an amazing debate. But this is not about BBC's tax liabilities. Let's come to the fact, and let me prove Sandeep, with whom I have a lot of respect, wrong. Sandeep has definitely not read Shreya Singhal. Shreya Singhal goes into details on how content can be removed. And you should remove content if it's anti-national, Sandeep. I'm not disputing it. However, what the government has tried to do, for example, the BBC documentary, not the BBC tax issues. In court, the government admits in written, on affidavit, the BBC documentary is not banned. But we all know that the BBC documentary is being blocked in India. Now, please explain to me, if this documentary is anti-national, which if some people may feel so, why is it not being removed? And if it is being removed, why in court do you say it's not been removed, it's not been banned, yet it is blocked? This is what is the fight against. If you cannot find this gray area, then I think maybe, Sandeep, you did need that 20 minutes of catnap.
Oh dear. I don't know. After this, if Sandeep is going to be able to sleep at all tonight. Okay.
It is the same like one very famous news portal which accused against Facebook about a lot of things and then quietly put their tail behind, between their legs and ran away and have gone totally silent on that issue. First saying that, what Facebook did to their removing accounts, etc. But once they were put under the scanner, they just piped down and disappeared from the scene. Before that, they talked about another issue. So these are things which people are doing today in a post-truth world. And that's what we are all victim of. And if some people need to stand up to it, and even in my catnap, I try to do that.
Okay.
But
Right.
are you comparing a portal to the government of India's affidavit in a court?
No.
Then I think you do need the catnap.
That portal, withdrew when they were put. They were charged.
Okay, I want to ask a broader question to Darinder Tayal, and that is actually the real sort of, I would say, raw nerve that Dorsey has touched today. Mr. Tayal, first of all, can you hear me?
I can.
Superb. Okay. Let me ask you the broader question. The raw nerve that has been touched on whether Jack Dorsey is leftist, jhoota, whatever. The real point that has been touched upon is, does this current dispensation, this government, have a very low tolerance threshold for people who don't say nice things about them? And then do whatever they can in their power to mute those voices. That's the base allegation. How would you defend that?
I don't even know. Okay, Tamanna, I don't even know where this allegation comes from. Number one, what you have said, again, I know time and again it is being said that I have said Jack Dorsey is leftist. He has said his organization is leftist, and if he's a media house, they have no business being leftist or rightist. Number one, let's be very clear. I have not said Jack Dorsey, maybe whatever. Number one. Number two, to say that the Indian government or the current dispensation or the BJP is very thin-skinned. Now, here is one man who has said X thing happened, and our own minister who has come forward and said it is a lie. And we've got a vibrant media here. You would have also known if those things had happened. You would have said, okay, X, Y, Z, this is where it has happened. The minister is lying, and the minister is not lying. So but at the same time, just because to a particular political party, to Congress, it suits to create some mess in the country, they want to go ahead and raise a ruckus about it and say, no, because a white man is saying it must be the truth. Even if our own minister is saying it, it is not.
I don't know if it's about Jack Dorsey being white. Now, this is a very different angle to this entire story.
No, so that is,
many brown people also make this allegation.
I don't know why this always happens, because Congress party always
Okay,
finds
1
something.
minute. I'm going to have to take a very short break. I'm going to have to take a very short break.
That it has nothing to do with
Jack
minute to
Dorsey
say
should
one
prove
thing.
his allegations. The Indian government, if they feel that he's talking rubbish, should take legal action and demand proof of allegations. This, soundbite versus soundbite beyond a point is only noise. If he is lying, take action. If he is lying, take action. If Twitter is violating the law, take action.
They have a problem with the CEOs of Twitter.
I
All right.
also want to take you back.
Why do you
I
have
would
to
want to
take
take
Back
you
your
to
claims.
why-
If you're saying as a
why does the
sovereign
government have to
nation,
do
a
that?
I would
social
want to
media
take you back.
intermediary is not following the rules of this land, come down on them as heavily as you would on anyone else. We'll take a very short break at this point, but I want to thank all of you for joining us, staying awake, alive and perky through the show. On the other side, we're talking about why Air India is back in the news for all the wrong reasons. More Air India pilots have been suspended. We'll tell you why when we return.